where performing artists, entrepreneurs, athletes, and more express how they've overcome trials and tribulations to make it where they are today. Be inspired. Welcome to the Tyese Show, where therapy is where it's at. We are discussing what we do for therapy. Anyone who has been watching, you will know that the tagline for the show is what we do for therapy. I call this the best in therapeutic edutainment. I have a wonderful guest here again with me today, and she is an amazing person. You will hear and understand why I say that. Her name is Lynn Streeter Childress. Lynn, thank you for
I'm
coming on
so
the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Your intro made me really happy. I was like, "Oh yes. Oh, I was clapping. So it was great.
I saw you.
I was dancing to the intro. I love it, Tyke.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Got to do a little production before before we get started. And you of all people know about production. So for the audience, I have again Lynn Streeter Childress, and her business is entitled Building Better People Productions. I just love the way it even sounds because that's what we need to do, right? We need to be better people, and we need to build better people, and we need to help one another to be better people. So
Absolutely.
it's fantastic. So now everyone will get to hear all about how this plays into a business for you, and of course, how it is therapeutic for you. Okay?
Absolutely.
This is what we're all about. Okay. So, building better people productions. When did you start your business?
I started my business in name at the end of 2015, but we really started doing programming and stuff in like February of 2016.
Okay. Okay, great. Great. How did you come up with the type of business?
So I making a long story short, which hopefully will be shorter. I don't know. Anyway, so I will say this. So I was a psychology major in college. That's what my bachelor's degree is in.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I was going to be a social worker, but I moved to Miami right after college because my parents had moved there, and my twin sister and I were like, "Miami, please, let's go." And but I'm not fully fluent in Spanish. I speak some, but I wasn't enough to, of course, get a social service job in Miami because the uh, heart of the clientele is Spanish speaking, and so
Mm-hmm.
so after doing a bunch of jobs, well, I worked at Payless shoe store, shout out discount, and I worked at a horrible customer service job. It was awful. I was getting stressed. I had
Didn't we all?
horrible. Whole nother story about nightmare jobs, but and also I just wasn't great at it, but it wasn't great for me. But I answered an audition notice for a regional theater in Miami that was looking for actors to be in their school shows. And so they would tour schools in Dade County, and they were all of the shows were things like, anti-gun violence, conflict resolution, that kind of thing. And I thought, oh,
Right.
this is therapeutic. This is outreach. This is what I want to do. And I had acting experience. And so I was like, great. And I wound up doing that at the meantime for a bit, for like a year and a half. But in the meantime, I was applying for MSW programs. I got into MSW programs, but then realized I deferred because of money. And I realized that I was doing what I wanted to do, and that this was the
Mhm.
way that I was going to continue to reach people. So I didn't get my MSW. And so ever since then, I've been doing theater, for, first as an actor, but I did a lot of things, touring schools and that kind of thing. I did a lot of theater for young audiences, did stuff for the Kennedy Center, toured the country in Canada, with kid shows, and I've been a I've done teaching stuff, I've done admin stuff with theater. But around 2015, I'd been working for a lot of other people and really decided I wanted to do something on my own. You know how you
Mhm.
know that feeling where the stuff that you're doing makes sense for you, but you keep
Yes.
thinking, but I could do this for me, and I could do exactly the kinds of things that I want to do, even though the things that I was doing were great. It's having the opportunity, right, to sort of craft things for yourself,
Mhm.
things that make sense the way
Mhm.
that you wanna do them, and so that's why I started, I had written this show that I was gonna produce with another theater company, but it didn't wind up working, and I was like, "I'm just gonna finally start my own thing." And so I started, basically calling schools. Well, first we did some shows, from some public shows, and I, called teachers that I knew, and, like, homeschool mothers, and, like, mommy bloggers and that kind of thing, and invited to the
Okay.
show for free. And
Right.
then, I took out some ads. Put out a bunch of stuff on Facebook, and I had people come to public shows. And then that next fall, so fall of 2016, I really wanted to do school shows. So I actually found, um, someone that I knew who was on the PTA at a local school, and arranged with them to actually do my show for free, so I could get some feedback. And so then
Mhm.
we would then
Mhm.
have, testimonials on the website because we did something for somebody. And then I just started calling people, and I found either the librarians or the counselors at school, since what we did, it was a show about empathy, sort of fit into that
Mhm.
vein.
Mhm.
And I just found phone numbers and emails, and I wound up getting bookings. I mean, and this is before I knew that there were actually rosters and things that, schools would look for and look at. I just, like, started calling people. So even when I didn't know what I was doing, and can I tell you, so this is actually therapy. Seems like this is gonna be therapy. I realize I'm sort of 8 years in, and I realized that I sometimes have forgotten who I am in terms of being bold and reaching out to people and following
Mhm.
up with people, because
Mhm.
that's what I did. I literally just called people, and I would ask people stuff. And I feel that sometimes when you get, I wouldn't say, maybe not complacent, but I have a kid, I have a husband, you have a bunch of other stuff going on, and sometimes
Right.
you start relying on people coming to you, right? And you're kind of waiting there, waiting for my emails to open. Somebody's going to email me, somebody's going to call me, somebody's going to tag me in something,
Mhm.
instead of remembering what it was like to actually be as proactive
Right.
as
Right.
I should
Sometimes
be.
you just gotta grind.
Sometimes you gotta grind, and that's I've been
Mhm.
in that realization. So we're the same age, we're the same, graduated from high school the same year. So I turned 53 about a month ago, almost
When is
exactly
your birthday, Len?
the 26th of April.
Okay, okay. So so I am just realizing now that we're both Tauruses.
Yeah, sure are. Right on the I guess I'm on the cusp, right? Because it changes at April 20th. So April
Right.
20th, right? So yeah, my birthday was kind of like, I don't know, like a wake up call of like, I said to two different people lately, I'm doing some great work with other people and through other people.
Mhm.
And I said to somebody, I really want to do more of what I want to do. And I had two separate people say to me within a week, well, why aren't you doing more of what you
Mm.
want to do?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and it was, oh, because I just need to again be bolder and do more things. Again, working for other people is great. I like when people work for me and with me. It's wonderful.
Right.
Um, And also, though, like you said, sometimes you realize that you're grinding for other people when you could be grinding for you.
Exactly. Just like you realized before you got started, when you got started in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'm hearing that, and for the audience, just want to break it down because you've done quite a bit. You were acting, and then you also went to school for psychology, and your bachelor's is in psychology. So which came first, the chicken or the egg?
It's one of those things. It's a chicken egg. I don't know. It's well, because it's funny. I grew up, um, singing in church, doing plays in school. I was in the
Okay.
Alameda. I was in the Alameda Players, which was the drama club at our alma mater, Baltimore City College High
Hmm.
School. And in college, I think I did one show, and I sang in a band, in a rock band, but then I also did speech interpretation. They call it the forensics team. And so I did speech, we with actually a bunch of city alum. Sharon Crosby, who's now Dr. Nandi Crosby, graduated in 87 from City, and
Hmm.
Dr. Meredith
Hmm.
Davis graduated in 88. I was on a speech team with them. And when I don't know, it didn't seem like a performing career was in the cards for me, just
Mm.
because it didn't seem like something that was accessible to me. And I don't know why. I knew people who majored in things, and
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to help people. I think at one time, like in 5th grade, if you had asked me who I wanted to be, I would have said Diana Ross. That's who that was my career aspiration, is
Uh-huh.
I wanted to be Diana Ross. But I didn't. I did actually apply for School for the Arts in Baltimore for clarinet, though, and didn't get in. And then I was like, oh, I'll just kind of do this kind of like on the side or at school or whatever. So the performing was always in me, and me being the kind of person. So maybe that came first ish, but then me wanting to be a helper. Like when I majored in psychology, I thought I was going to do clinical, but then I'm the worst. I say this, I was the worst psychology student. Like I could not write an APA to save my life. I could have the manual in front of me,
Uh-huh.
and this is pre-internet, right? You have the actual manual sitting there, and I'd be like, okay, this many dots after this many spaces after the accreditation or whatever, and still I would
Right.
get stuff wrong.
Right.
But I realize now, though, so I was diagnosed with ADHD last year at the age of 52. And
Wow. Okay.
it made, because someone I knew was being diagnosed, and as I was going through their stuff, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds very familiar. And
Mm.
so I realized that the reason that like APA and that stuff didn't come easy for me is because details like that sometimes don't come easy to me.
Yes.
And
Okay.
and
Mhm.
even I would write these great papers that had so much research and so much substance, and we would do peer review, and people would say, well, you have 12 violations of APA, rules. And I'm like, but is it a good paper? Did you like it?
Right. Right. Because and so you're a heck of a writer. You're a playwright, and here you are writing, and you've of course wrote in high school. I mean, we went to city
Yeah.
college prep school here in Baltimore. So you did a lot of writing. I'm sure you probably got excellent grades on your writings in high school, and we did not have to do APA. So, for the audience that may not know, APA is American Psychological Association. And when you're referencing all your works, which you always have to do, if not, it's plagiarism.
Well,
Right. But when you're referencing your works, we did not have to do the APA in high school, and they weren't even called, they were called they were called references. I
references.
think I think in college they're more called citations. you know, tomato tomato. But in high school, it just wasn't that hard. They gave you this one way to do it, and you just did it. So you could get a 90 something on a paper,
Yep.
is as long as you added your references properly, and of course your content was great, right? As long as you format exactly what you were supposed to. And then we get to college, and there's more than one way, and it just only depends on what college that you went to as
Right.
to how they want your citation slash references on the paper. So I can see I know I struggled with the transition until I realized, because thank goodness, see, I didn't go to college until I was older.
Mhm.
So then, by the time I went 100% online. So
Oh,
associate's, bachelor's, and master's 100% online. And we both have degrees in psychology. But when I was doing my papers, we had a citation generator.
oh my gosh.
Yes, I know. Don't you wish you had that before? Because the citation generator, of course, is just like it sounds. You put in the author of the book, the title of the book that you use to reference, or whatever your source was, whether it was YouTube or whether it was like a psychology journal. As long as you put in the information properly, it would kick out or generate your citation. It was fantastic.
It's
So
amazing.
so that was something that you did not have to worry about. And then they also, of course, um let you know how the formatting was supposed to go. But let's get back to you being a playwright. So for the audience, I heard you mention, young people, and then is that primarily your audience for the plays that you write?
Primarily, I've written some things that weren't, but primarily what I do is young audiences
Hmm.
slash family friendly. But I have written some things that are broader. But young audiences is my jam. It's my first love. I feel
Yeah.
that the arts can communicate and reach people in ways that nothing else can, right? Hearing music, seeing something acted out in front of you, reading something, there's a way that those things kind of hit us differently than someone just kind of lecturing you saying you should be nice to people, right? And so
Right. Right.
so I used to work for Kaiser Permanente, used to have in the DC area an educational theater program. I think they still exist out in California, but basically they would send actors to schools. Basically, it was kind of like the kind of things they didn't want to see later at Kaiser. So it was, they had a show about eating right and,
Hmm.
wearing a helmet when you rode your bike or that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I did a
Hmm.
show about conflict resolution. And that was one of the, well, actually, after the stuff I did in Miami, but again, this continuation of being a teaching artist, that you are an artist who is teaching your art form and using your art form to teach something else. And
Hmm.
I was gonna say that that really sort of opened my eyes to the possibilities. So when I started doing it on my own, I kind of harkened back to that, about what that felt like when kids got what we were doing. So I don't know if if you had Mr. Aronson in Ed City. He was a chemistry teacher. And if you had Mr. Aronson, he's my 10th grade chemistry teacher, and he used to talk about
I
the
didn't have them.
yeah, he was great. He used to talk about the awe of enlightenment, and that was
Okay.
when someone's teaching you a concept and you don't get it, and you don't get it, and all of a sudden you go, ah, and
Yeah.
he called that the awe of
Yeah.
enlightenment, and
Yeah. Like an aha moment.
exactly, and
Hmm.
that's what I loved doing and being a part of. And again, kids are a lot of times still open to things that we're not as adults as open to. It's kind of funny. You kind of hit this space where you don't want to sort of learn as much, and then you get to our age and then you kind of get open to, looking back and doing some things differently again.
Right.
But kids don't know what they don't know, and they actually are sort of wide open to some things. I used to teach Shakespeare to uh third through sixth graders in DC through the Folger Shakespeare Library. They had a program that went to DC public schools, and you say Shakespeare to someone who's in their 20s or 30s, and they might be like, ugh, ugh, right? But you go to that with younger kids, they're like, great, what is this? Because there's so much that they don't know. They're in that space.
Okay.
They're
I wouldn't have thought. Okay.
Yeah, because they're in a
Mhm.
space where everything is new information, right? Everything is something to learn. You're being taught. So why not this? And so teaching them at a place where it's not as intimidating, or to some of them intimidating at all, because you have somebody sort of guiding you through it, and because the stories and everything are so universal. And I know I sort of got off into Shakespeare, but anyway, all that to say, that's why I like young audience. It's because I feel like you're open to differences in thought. Yeah.
Mhm. 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 So what's the youngest audiences that you've worked with?
I'm actually doing a show that I just wrote with two friends who are one is a current music teacher in Anne Arundel County, and one is a retired um special ed with an early childhood focus teacher in Prince George's County, and we're all performers, and we just wrote a show for 0 through 6 year olds. And it's about
Wow.
cooperation, and it's a 25-minute show, so it's very short, and it has a lot of repetition, not a lot of words, and it has a lot of audience participation. And so far, we just started doing that show this year, but we've done it for like a group of parents and their kids. And so we had like toddlers, we had like 1 year olds through like 3 year olds in there. And then we
Mhm.
also did it for, I guess, 3 to 5 year olds at an early childhood center in Prince George's County. So yeah, it's little tiny people.
Yes. That sounds amazing. That
It's
sounds amazing. Where what are some of the places that you've had that your productions have been shown?
So we do where a lot of schools and libraries. We've done things at Anne Arundel County Public Libraries, like several branches,
Mhm.
Charles County Libraries. We've done things in Anne Arundel County schools. We work with a group in Baltimore City called Arts Every Day that does
Okay.
art experiences for city schools.
Mhm.
And so we've done shows through them. We've done shows in Howard County, Arlington County, Frederick County, sort of all over. I'm actually doing a well, I'm not supposed to announce it yet. But anyway, I'm doing something in Philly later this year,
Okay.
um, which is exciting. So sort of like all over. And I've done after school clubs with area schools.
Mhm.
I've done workshops. Some of the shows that we do have residencies that come with them. So you like do the show and then you come back anywhere from like 1 to 3 to 4 sessions to work with like a specific group. So I do a one person show about um, emotional health. It's called Feeling All the Feelings, and
Nice.
it's a fun show, and I do
Mhm.
that. And there's a school in Brooklyn Park. It's an Anne Arundel County school, but it's in Brooklyn Park, that I sort of partnered with, and so I've done 3 years running. I've done workshops and shows with them, and that's gonna continue. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you have, and you might ask this question later, but we just want to serve lots of people. So if your kid is in school, if you work at a school, if you know of a school or a library system or a church or a Girl Scout troop, we've worked with Girl Scout troops, um
Okay.
who could use um, a dose of dramatic kindness. Again, that could be a show, that could be
Mhm.
an improv workshop. It could be where we're just playing, a bunch of theater games. I've done that for troops and groups. If you look on my website, bbpproductions.com, you'll see I have my workshops listed. And yeah, that's my biggest thing, is that I just want to work with all the people and serve all the people.
Mhm.
And yeah.
So what does a theater game look like?
Um so so theater games are, a lot of them are improv based. Some of them could be like warm-ups that get you ready for a drama class, like some are physical things. There's a game called that we play called Stop, Go, Jump, Clap. And basically, when I say stop, the kids run in place, and when I say go, they stop. And when I say jump, they clap. And when I say clap, they jump. And it kind of gets you off kilter, but it kind of gets your
Mhm.
body and your brains moving. So that's a theater game. Um, some of them are get your speech uh stuff, like tongue twisters, um saying things over and over again to kind of get your mouth, breathing exercises, but then things that are more improv, like kids like this one because it's kind of chaotic. It's called Bus Stop, and you have two chairs next to each other, and one person sits in a chair and they're pretending that there's somebody just waiting at a bus stop, like reading a book or on their phone or whatever. And then somebody
Mhm.
sits next to them, and that person has to be somebody who gets that other person to leave by being annoying or being loud or being suspicious, right? Or something. I mean, the only rule is that
Mhm.
you can't touch people, you can't hit people. But you have people singing, with people who go, "There's a bomb under your chair," or like whatever. But it's coming up with some kind of thing or some kind of character that then would get the other person to leave. And then that person, who was the person who made them leave, gets up and they become the person who's supposed to leave. And then it rotates. Um,
I like it.
it's fun. And I do storytelling games where it was one of my favorites that I just found. And most of these things aren't things that I've made up. They're things that people have done over and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, this one, it's where someone tells the beginning of a story, like once upon a time there was a family of elves, and then someone else tells what could be the last line of a story, like, and then they told the cat to go away. So then you have to fill in how you get from the elves to the cat. And it's such a great teamwork thing. It's great for sequencing, like what comes next, like, and then they'll be like, okay, so are we at the end, or does something else have to come between
Mhm.
that? It's a great game. Again, it's things that get you moving, and they teach things. Drama games a lot of time teach things without you being explicit about what it's teaching, right? So a game like that
Mhm.
teaches teamwork. You know, it teaches you to use your imagination, right? There are games, if I say we're doing a physical warm up, right? But if you're just jumping and going and stopping and clapping, that's physical. Um, yeah, those are drama games, but again, they teach things and utilize skills that can be used on stage, without, and sometimes I'll go back to the kids and say, so why do you think we did that? And but I don't come out and
Yeah.
say this game is going to teach you blah blah blah. We do it, and then we go back and talk about why we did
Excellent.
it.
Excellent. That you're making them critically think and put it together themselves
Absolutely.
as to the purpose. Okay. Now, sometimes do kids put on plays?
Yeah, yeah, so um when I've done camps, I'm not doing a camp this year, but I've done camps where kids have put on plays at the end. Done after school clubs where kids, we've taken 10 to 12 weeks or whatever, and the kids have put on a play. Sometimes it's a play that the kids write themselves. Um, and it's really funny with like K through second graders, because it's stories that thematically don't seem to make any sense, but somehow they make them make sense because someone, we had a year where kid was just obsessed with Pokemon, and so he wanted to be a Pokemon, and somebody else wanted to be a clown. So it's like, okay, how are we going to get the Pokemon and the clown in the same show? And somehow we did it, because again, they got that joy of creating. But then I've
Mhm.
also done shows where classes where I have gotten a show from someplace else and we've done it. And
Mhm.
I don't do um on my own. I've done for other people, but mostly we do like smaller things again because we're a smaller company, so we don't have the budget to, I say we're not doing Hamilton. We have the budget to do, big giant
Right.
things, but it's sort of simpler things that are story driven. So yeah, so sometimes I do that as well. And
Mhm.
again, if you look in my workshops, that's something that I have, making a play, creating a play, after school clubs, that kind of thing I
Okay.
do as
So you
well.
mentioned being a teaching artist as well. So, in being a teaching artist, that is the workshops that you have.
Right.
And okay,
The
so now
works Go
your
ahead.
workshops, are they just for kids or are they for adults as well?
They're for adults as well. I've done professional development workshops, sometimes through arts organizations, like I said, using theater games, but that specifically can help with SEL, with social emotional learning, or theater games that you can, use like that story, like that game with the story, where you could use it to reinforce a history lesson, right? Or a
Mhm.
book that you've learned in English, because it's kind of like, okay, what comes next? So I do that sort of thing. And then I also, two friends of mine and I, Kalicia Thorpe Price, who is a theater teaching artist who has a group called Dramatic Play, and my friend Jennifer Ridgway, who's a theater teaching artist who has a group called Yard Dramas, and we together are doing a workshop called Empathy Works, and it's for organizations and businesses and anybody who wants to make your workplace more empathetic. And we use sort of drama based things to do it. We did it last year at Center Stage in Baltimore. They had a sort of like weekend festival of like performances and talks and workshops and stuff. And we did that
Mhm.
workshop for them. So it's pretty new, but we're looking for more people to do it for, because we believe that um, empathetic thinking, leads to equity. It leads to uh, businesses making decisions for the people that work for them that make sense when you're thinking about the other person and how they feel. Because a lot of businesses don't really care what other people think. But
Mhm.
again, it isn't just that things become a more, kumbaya, we are the world kind of a place, which could happen too. But it's also when people are happy with where they work and they feel good about where they work and what they do and the people whom they work with and for, it creates better, I think, better, in a better environment, and it's better for
Of
your work.
course.
Right, if people really
Mhm.
feel like they are listened to and appreciated. And again, not just people pretending to do that so then they can get work out of them, but when you really feel though that people have your best interest at heart because they're thinking of you as a person the same way they would think of themselves. So yeah, that's called Empathy Works. There's information about that too on my website.
On the website. Okay,
Hmm.
great. Yeah, I was just reading that about 68% of persons, and I was so not surprised by the statistic, but I was just reading that about 68% of people are just not happy with their job, so basically that's most people, which is really
Most people.
bad. So introducing the empathy in business it was necessary. It was very much needed. Was that your idea?
Um, I think it was my idea, and then I took it to my colleagues and said that we should do something with this? And they were like, yep. Yes, we
Mhm.
should.
Mhm.
Because again, it's something that the first show that I wrote was about empathy, and it's the thing that the show that we've done the most and done the longest. It's called We Got It, and it was actually wrote it. It came out of reactions to, uh, well, in some parts, it's really about Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice. In some ways,
Okay.
even though the whole thing isn't about that, but there's one piece of the show. It's sort of like three little vignettes. In the last one, it basically came out of the idea that people were writing and saying, especially on social media, and thinking horrible things about these children, right? Tamir Rice was 12 when he was killed
Mhm.
by police officers,
Mhm.
and Trayvon Martin was 17 when he was murdered. And these are children, right? Children. And people said the nastiest, most evil things about them. And my thought was that people did not see these children as children and did not see them as human, right?
Mm.
They
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
if it had been children that looked like them, I'm not even going to say just that looked like them. A lot of it was absolutely racist. But I know that sometimes Black folks were as hard on each other as we on other people.
Mhm.
Well, why wasn't he in the house? Well, why wasn't he doing that? And we're the why was she
Right.
wearing that? Why were you out in the middle of the night? Why were you with
Mhm.
this person? Why did you go out on a
Mhm.
date with them? Right? So it's the idea that we often, for many reasons, but don't see other people as people the same way we would see our own children or ourselves, right?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
I really wanted to. I was very angry and sad, and I wanted to punch people. And I used to say this, instead of punching people, I decided to write, and because that's all I could think of. We do a piece in the show that's about a guy who has a giant teddy bear, and his neighbor has a giant dog, and the guy with the teddy bear doesn't like the one with the dog because he doesn't understand that she likes to do that they play differently, and they like to do things that he doesn't like to do. And so
Mhm.
the dog goes missing, and he doesn't understand because he's like, I don't understand, plus it's not a bear, it's a stupid dog. So then the bear goes missing. And so it's about shared loss, and it's about
Mm.
realizing that you don't have to like the same thing that somebody else likes, or love the same thing, but you both really love something. And when you lose it, you're sad. And when you get it back, you're happy. And it's sort of seeing each other sort of at the basics. Like, you know, I don't have to like the music that my husband likes. I don't have to understand the music that my son listens to, right? I don't have to um get all of it, or when he was younger, the shows he used to watch, or now, I mean, what's the thing? Skibbity? I don't know. They say skibbity
I
all the time.
I just heard that literally with some children that I do counseling for. I literally just heard the word "skippity" for the first time a couple of days ago.
And I was like, what does it mean? And he's like, it means everything, like in nothing. I'm like, okay, I don't care that much. But I mean, it
Right.
doesn't seem to be. But I mean, but all that to say, I don't understand it. But what I understand is that it's important to him, right? And that's
Mhm.
empathy. It's that I'm not dismissing his stuff. I mean, when he was younger, he used to watch some crazy children's television. I was like, please. And this is when I had to still be in the room with him. After a while, I was like, and I'll be in the kitchen, right? But again, it's very easy to judge people for anything when you don't get down to the nitty gritty of it. And it's that we all want to be loved. We all want to be
Mhm.
liked. We all
Mhm.
want to be accepted. And even though it doesn't mean that you have to agree with the way that people go about doing those things, you know, you don't have to be like, oh, you want to be loved, so I'm going to let you gaslight me, right? Or
Right.
you just want friends, so I'm going to let you, treat me badly. Or
Mhm.
so it's not that kind of thing, but at least sometimes understanding why people are doing or trying to understand
Mhm.
gives you again, sort of power to be like, I understand. And also, this isn't cool and goodbye. Right. So it's not about like making excuses for people and staying around
Mm-hmm.
in things just because you understand them. I used to be like that, if you ever like guys where you were like, but no one understands him but me. I'm the only one. Everyone else thinks that he's a jerk, but no, he's not a jerk because, and then sometimes they really were jerks. It was just something that you just felt like
Right.
sometimes a jerk is a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but I think again, empathy in its purest form is understanding. It's the golden rule. I'm treating you the way I want to be treated. It's understanding that you have needs and likes and wants the same way that I do. And it's treating you the way I'm treating you out of that knowledge.
Right,
Right.
right. And these are the lessons that the kids that you work with and the adults with these businesses, these are lessons that they need to learn, and hence social emotional learning, the
Oh yeah.
sharing, the caring, the respect, being non-judgmental, all that all goes into the social emotional learning that you're providing. You are an amazing humanitarian for
Oh,
doing this. Mm.
well, you know what's so funny? There are times when I'll get annoyed and I'll be like, oh, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be the empathy person. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I mean, it teaches me. There are times, I mean, I have a an almost 12-year-old. He turns 12 this week. And tweens can be, if you didn't know, challenging. Um, because they know things and
I can recall.
you do, right?
Yeah.
You've gone through that. It's like someone talking about like 3-year-olds. 3-year-olds are also crazy. 3-year-olds are nuts in the very best way. They're so smart, but they are like woo.
Right.
And soon to be 12-year-olds, but they're sweet people. My son had some friends over this weekend, and it was like 5 or 6 boys his age, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and they were the sweetest kids. They played video games. My
Mhm.
husband brought the PS4 downstairs and got video games, and they played FIFA and Madden and whatever and yada yada. And
Mhm.
and it was really loud, but they would come out and say, like, excuse me, can I have some water? Oh, where do you keep your forks? Oh, thank you. I mean, just very, very kind people. And sometimes it's very easy to forget that, especially when you're in the middle of your child saying something that drives you up the wall. I mean, again,
Right.
these things
Right.
are for everybody. Remembering that
Mhm.
your kids, and I actually remember being there's sometimes I have flashbacks of being that age, of being in the 6th grade and not understanding what the heck was going on with the
Mhm.
world, and being in a new situation. And you start thinking about, okay, my husband said this to me once, about our kid. He was um having some sort of disagreement with us, and my husband said, he's not giving you a hard time, he's having a hard time. um
Mm.
and it was like, oh, now sometimes he does give us a hard time, but that wasn't it, right? So let's say that happens sometimes, but this was him himself having a hard time and not knowing how else to express it, but in a way that was, not what I wanted to deal with. And it's hard in those moments when you are ratcheted up,
Mhm.
where you're just hot and you just want to be like, "Rah!" And just like yell, where you have to remember, okay, I'm trying to get down to what he needs. Now, sometimes what he needs is to go sit down, but sometimes, but exactly, it's what is behind all of this. And I know that we came from, I mean, this is a blanket thing, right? But we're the same age, and a lot of our, you know, parents were grew up in the, 50s and 60s, and were raised by people who were like depression era uh babies, and some of those were one or
Mhm.
two
Mhm.
generations outside of slavery, right? I mean, really, if you go back, my my dad's father was born in like 1910. So what was that, 30-ish years past, the abolition of
Right.
slavery. So
Right.
like, and different people have different stories, but all that to say, sometimes the way people, period, but I know sometimes the way that Black folk, we've gone somewhere completely different. But again, sometimes the way that we do discipline and things like that are born out of what we were taught and what we saw.
Definitely. Definitely.
You
Exactly.
know, it,
What we emulated,
yeah,
even, in counseling, and, and you major psychology, I major psychology, we know that kids are a product of their upbringing and experiences. And if certain challenges are not met, if you have behaviors that should have been learned that weren't learned, then you're going to have adults that are just going to go through the same issues. And then those adults will be raising kids that are going through the same types of issues. Why? Because generationally, there is not enough knowledge there on how to handle your feelings.
absolutely.
Your projects. I mean, your projects are amazing. It sounds like, I mean, you could easily as well just teach parenting classes.
I would love to, and it's so funny, and I would even say if I did that, "Hey, I'm gonna write that down as something I could do," because, again, what happens in the classroom, for the most part, starts at home, because it's kids coming from home bringing what they are at home into the classroom. Now, it's
Mm,
sometimes funny when people are like, your kid is so great and polite and wonderful," and at home you're like, "Well, they're not always polite and wonderful to me." But that's a lot of times, though, that's because they feel comfortable at home to be able to kind of like let all that
mhm.
go. Um, but I mean, but I would say I'm learning too. I'm an older parent. I had my son at 41. So where, you have adult children and my child is in the 6th grade.
Yeah,
My
I was doing the math when you said
exactly.
you had a tween. I was like,
Exact and I
okay.
mean, my twin sister, who, Tyese also knows, has a 10, almost 11-year-old, and so, I mean, we have a friend that Stacy Corcoran, who we went to city with.
Yeah, I
I
remember
think
the name.
I
Mhm.
think her son is like 8, and
Ooh.
so, right, something like that, 8, or so some of us started a lot later than other folks.
Mhm.
So when everyone else is going out and hanging out, we're like, "I gotta get a sitter, or I can't go because I gotta drive people to school or pick people up from
Right,
school."
right.
So I know that there are things that I'm learning, but everybody has something to teach, and it's, again, not getting on parents sort of like, "Oh, they need to know better than the yell," or whatever. But sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and
Mhm.
we honestly do the best that we can. My parents had us, they went to Morgan and they got married like a year out of school and then had us like the next year. So my parents were like 24, 23, 24. We were born and they had twins, and people would say to them, "Wasn't it hard?" And they would say, "Well, no, not really. We had to do it, right? We had to make it work." Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so people know what they know. It's just then trying to figure out ways to do it better. And like I said, as
Mhm.
somebody who was just diagnosed with ADHD last year, I feel like my life is making sense now in
Mm.
some ways, because now I know I have a vocabulary for and a reason for some of the way I've done things just my whole life, but also like as a parent, as a business person, as a friend, as a daughter, as a wife. Um, I know that I'm not just flighty, that I'm not disorganized, right? That I'm not, that a lot of that stuff comes out of,
Mhm. Mhm.
neurodivergent. So, and it's really
Right.
good to be able to kind of give yourself a break and not be like, "Woo, okay, I'm never going to clean the dishes and I'm never going to be on time." No, 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 no. But I know now why I've done the things that I've done, and it actually, I've been doing this work with the empathy stuff, like I said, since 2016. I wrote the piece in 2015, But I feel like now, knowing what I know about myself, that I have even more grace for the kids
Mm-hmm.
that I work with, because I know I had a student a couple of years ago who it was a homeschool student. It was a group of homeschool students, and I was giving direction, whatever, and she was doodling in a book, and I was like, "Hey, I need you to look up and acknowledge me and listen to me." And I told her mom that, and she goes, "I think it's that I don't think she was trying to be rude. I think it's that she concentrates better when she's doodling or doing something else." Duh, now I know this.
Right.
It's why kids have fidgets. It's why,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to have something else going on. And so I immediately thought of that. And actually, I even before I was diagnosed, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But it makes even more sense now. And like I said, I feel like I have more grace for these kids, who a lot of them have ADHD. They're kids who are on the autism spectrum. Um, darn it, the kids who were COVID babies, who were inside
Right.
for 2 years and forgot how to talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's given me, I think, more grace for people, and not thinking that I know everything, because I feel like I learn new things every day.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could sum up one key note that you want people to learn from your plays, what would that be?
Uh,
Regardless of age.
yeah. Um, Treat yourself well and treat other people well. You're
Beautiful.
awesome, and other people are awesome too, even if they're different from you.
I love it. I love it. How can some of the organizations, sounds like you can be contacted by organizations. I'm going to say, of course, schools, nonprofits,
Yep.
businesses who are interested in really genuinely interested in understanding how to be more empathetic
Right.
to their workers and employees.
Yep.
How
And
can they reach you?
I was gonna also say, like, other nonprofits, like museums, and um, anybody that brings kids in or brings groups in to do things, or
Hmm.
has groups, I will come to. So you can find us at, we're BBP Productions.com. I'm Lynn, Lynne, at bbpproductions.com. 443-906-0099 is my work number. Um, I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads.
Hmm.
And I put updates about what we do. I also have a page on Facebook called Lynn Streeter Childress, teaching artist and performer, or something like that. So
Okay.
I put my varied things that I do through all kinds of people. If I'm writing, if I'm performing, or whatever, either through my business or through other things on there as well.
Fantastic.
So
Mhm.
yeah, you can find me. I'm everywhere.
Great, great. What is some advice that you would give to someone who's looking to maybe be an actor, actress, and they're, just, they're shy about it, not sure what they, if, how they don't feel so great, like, some maybe lacking in some self-confidence, some self-esteem. I mean, because you not only have you acted, you didn't just go on to become an actress.
Right.
Not just an act I mean, not to say that there's
No, I get it.
you're just an actress.
No, I get it. It's that I do varied things.
But
No,
yes,
absolutely.
your realm is wide and broad, and it helps so many people. What type of advice would you give to someone who is, um, just nervous, a little shy, a little scared about getting started?
Well, and I'll say this, like I said earlier, my plan was not to be an actor. I thought I was going to be a social worker.
Mm,
And and again, I was younger. I was in my 20s. I was like 24 when 23 when I started acting professionally. Well, actually 22, almost 23. This is my 30th year in professional theater in one way or another, since 94. But
lovely.
But I will say this, it took a certain amount, I think, of youthful chutzpah, as they say, um, to do this. Like, I went to this audition. I had a song and I had a monologue, but they like, oh, do you have a resume? Nope. Do you have a headshot? Nope. I didn't have anything. And I just went in and I did it. And I got
Mhm.
hired and I worked for these people in several shows for this education department from this theater for a year and a half. So all that to say is learn the things that you need to learn, but just do it, because unless you go on an audition, even if it's scary, even if you don't get the thing, if you don't put yourself out there, most people aren't going to come find you. It's, there used to be these stories of, in the 50s or whatever, where somebody was discovered sitting at a soda fountain or, walking down the street, right? That kind of
Uh-huh.
thing.
Uh-huh.
And some of those things happen, but a lot of times it's you having to put yourself out there, and
Right.
it's really just taking a step. If you are interested in acting, um, take a class, find a monologue, get a
Mhm.
song, start looking at the same as you would for any job interview, is look for what people are looking for when you look for audition notices. Oh, they want a song. Oh, they want a headshot. Oh, they want a resume. How do I get those things? Um, and just start. I mean, that's the easiest thing, is just start and look into it. Google is an amazing invention.
Mhm.
Is that, and we didn't have that, starting out, and so we had to go to the library to go find stuff. We had to get the children. There was a thing called a newspaper. You had to get like a physical newspaper and wait till the on Fridays in the Washington Post in their arts pull out. They would have auditions, and that's how I found auditions.
Mhm.
So it's just start looking. There are Facebook pages, if you're on Facebook, of that are theater, you put in DC theater or Baltimore theater or whatever, wherever you
Mhm.
are,
Right.
and just start looking. If you want to ask me questions, and I'll help you, know with what I know. I may not know the answer, but I'll try to point you.
All right. That is absolutely beautiful. Just do it.
Just
you
do
know,
it.
if you're afraid, you just have to decide that I'm just going to try. So many people are have a fear of failure, but you have to be able to get over that, and one way to get over it is to just do it. If you fall flat on your face, then you know what? Now you know that there's a different way that you have to do it. But either way, get it
Exactly.
get it done.
So like 20 some years ago, I was doing a show that was touring, and we were in upstate New York, and we went kayaking. The cast did, and I was in a kayak by myself. And it was one of those things where if you're in a kayak, there's no motor. If you were out there, you have to get
Mhm,
yourself
mhm.
to shore. And it
Yeah,
was this
yeah,
big thought of like, well, I can't just stay here and die in the middle of the Erie Canal, right? I'm gonna have to
right.
move. And I think about that often, that um there's some things, and I'm a person of faith. I believe in God and prayer, but I also believe, though, that we get tasked to do things, right?
Yes,
We're supposed to be the
yes.
hands and the feet of God. And if you just sit there and your hands are just, twiddling, and your feet are just on the floor, and you're not using those hands and feet or your fingers to write people and encourage people or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's just doing it. And that sounds so facetious if people don't know how to get started, but at least try to figure out how to get started. And I know we're probably wrapping up, but I have one more story, if that's okay.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, is that years ago I was in a show that was in a theater festival, and there was another performer who was in a show um close by. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she has the career that I want. That's my career. And then God quickly said to me, that's her career. Because she's the one that worked for that. You have to
I
work.
like it.
Exactly.
Mhm,
You have to work for your career. And so your
mhm.
career is going to look like whatever it's going to look like, but it's yours. Do it.
That's right. I love it. I love it. Perfect way to wrap up.
Yeah. Thank you, Thais.
So you are so welcome. Thank you for coming on to the Tyese Show. And oh, I feel that we covered so many things that are content for the show and what I want to put out there. And that is really to if you are having reservations, if you need to overcome some things about yourself, whether it be self-esteem, whether it be a lack of self-confidence, or just not really knowing what your purpose is, then please look to people to be mentors like Lynn Streeter Childress of Building Better People Productions, because she is doing it. She is a great humanitarian and an actress and a psychology major.
Yep.
And it does not matter what else you have going on. She has a tween, and she found out a year ago about ADHD, and it doesn't matter. All it did is kind of connect the dots for you.
Yep. Absolutely.
But continue,
Absolutely.
but continue to watch. We are Monday through Friday, or listen. We are Monday through Friday on WMEG Radio, and that is the 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Time frame. And then also we are live on Facebook as well as YouTube Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Thank you for watching the Tyese Show. Be blessed.